Welcome back,
Hi,
everybody,
everyone.
to the Heaven and Earth podcast. I'm Merlin.
I'm Crystal.
So, this is another entry in the Prophecies and Medicines for Cataclysmic Times series. The times are indeed feeling very cataclysmic right now. So right now the moon is in Pisces, just at the tail end of Pisces, about to move into Aries and directly conjoin Saturn. We're trying to get some more of that Jupiterian Piscean wisdom for predictions and dissemination of knowledge through this before things heat up in the next couple of days. So yeah, let's talk about the plant that we're
All
working
right.
with.
So, as a medicine for the times, we highly recommend and we are working with today and honoring Skullcap. And so, Skullcap is what's the best part about Skullcap for these times is Skullcap's work on the nervous system, deep work on the nervous system, right? So, Skullcap is a nerve trophorestorative, right? Which means that Skullcap can actually heal nervous tissue, can actually heal the nerves themselves, and is also a beautiful anti-anxiety herb. It's also mildly sedative in its tincture form, which is what we're drinking. Beautiful skullcap tincture that I made from some locally crafted skullcap a couple of years ago, is really wonderful for PTSD and unraveling deeply held stress and tension in the system. So this is a medicine that, most people living in late stage capitalism and in the everlasting war of our present empire can really use.
Yeah. So we're living very Orwellian wars right now, where the wars are not meant to be won; they're just meant to be continuous.
Right. To benefit the company.
Yeah.
What was the
What's the? I forget the.
in 1984? It's been a while
Yeah.
since we've read
But
1984.
it's just this totalitarian state of
Yeah.
Oceania, INGSOC, English Socialist
Right.
Party. Yeah. So that's what we're living in. We've been living in that for a long time at this point. It's becoming more and more obvious. So we started this series first back in January when we started talking about upcoming predictions, and right back then we were flagging the Jupiter-Saturn square and saying, hey guys, mid-June, late June is going to be pretty intense. There's going to be lots of things coming down the line, with war especially. And now we're living in that period. The Jupiter-Saturn square just perfected on Sunday, about 4 days ago. And a lot has happened in the last week, since our last session that we recorded.
Since the square started getting close.
Exactly. So right now, there's a tit-for-tat bombardment going on between Israel and Iran, and so
I wouldn't really say tit for tat.
yeah.
Israel's taken a lot. Israel is killing a lot more people in
Yes.
Iran,
Yeah.
targeting more civilian locations, which they are known for, of course.
Of course, yeah, and so we can see that in the charts, specifically something called the Aries ingress charts. So this is a big tool that we use in mundane astrology. An Aries ingress chart is like a solar return for a nation. You look at the position of all the planets in the sky around a nation's capital city when the sun moves into Aries, and that gives you a sense of what's going to be happening for that nation within that upcoming year. So I want to look at the Aries ingress charts for Israel and Iran side by side. So this is dated to March 20th, which is the spring equinox. On the left, we have Israel, and on the right, we have Iran. And you can see that it's a very, very similar chart. They're both Cancer rising, and they've all got the same house placements, except for, you'll see in the first house for Israel, the ascendant is at 3 degrees, and Mars is in the first house, whereas for Iran, the ascendant is at 20 degrees. In fact, directly conjoined Mars within a degree, and this chart says
Within a minute.
within a minute. So it's basically like Mars was right on the ascendant for Iran when the sun moved into Aries, and so they've both got Mars in the first house. This makes sense for, war is front and center for both of them. Mars is associated with death and destruction. Mars is in fall in these charts in Cancer, so it's very, very severe. But for Iran, Mars is right on top of the ascendant, which is very, very difficult. The ascendant is specifically associated with the nation as a whole. You have this god of death and destruction right on top of the ascendant, so you can expect more death and destruction, especially through war. And we've seen that, as Crystal just said, the death rate in Israel from this is about 24, maybe a little higher. But Iran, the last I checked, had a death rate of 450, which is almost 20 times higher. And so Mars is causing more problems in Iran's chart than Israel's chart, and that's clear just from the death toll at this point. Now,
I was wondering if you could speak to.
well, I want to talk about the other charts too. So because what goes on now, because these charts are Cancer rising, and Cancer is a cardinal sign, these charts will only last for 3 months, for one season, before another chart needs to take over. That happens whenever you have a cardinal sign rising. If it's cardinal, you've got to change it after 3 months. If it's fixed, then it can last for the whole year. If it's mutable, it lasts for 6 months. So we're getting new charts for the summer solstice, and here's those charts. It's again Cancer rising, so we're going to need to change these again in another 3 months. It's interesting, there's just a lot of change happening with both of these countries right now. And we can see Israel's chart on the left. It's Cancer rising, it's the same, they each have the same chart configurations, but the ascendant for Israel is directly conjoined to the sun, and also Jupiter within 2 degrees. And the ascendant in Iran's chart is not. It's instead conjoined Mercury within 4 degrees. But what is particularly noteworthy is that the midheaven, which is specifically associated with kings, leadership, prime ministers, presidents, ayatollahs, is directly conjoined Saturn, who is in fall in Aries. So it's kind of been bad luck for Iran. Both of these charts, one of the angles has been conjoined a malefic in fall in each case. And so that's difficult for Iran. Whereas Israel, the ascendant is conjoined the sun and Jupiter, which are much more positive planets. So whether you like Israel or not, this does point towards Israel getting a lot more success and a lot more support in the upcoming 3 months that this chart takes effect for. And that just, I think, makes sense in very, very matter-of-fact terms. Israel gets a lot of support from the United States, both in terms of financial aid and just in weapons, armament, and from the United Kingdom, too, for that matter. Whereas Iran, is a little bit more on their own for now. And because we have Saturn directly conjoined the midheaven here, and the midheaven is associated with leadership, this would be a straightforward interpretation of this would be that there would be a kind of beheading that happens of the Iranian government, whether there is an assassination of the Ayatollah. We've already seen lots of Iranian officials being attacked, being assassinated. I think that I won't be surprised, I'm not sure, but I would not be surprised if that continues. I would not be surprised if the Ayatollah was in fact assassinated.
Which they're already talking
about. They're already talking about,
The United States is already planning another coup for Iran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's it's unfortunate. None of us want more widespread death and destruction, but yeah, it's just kind of part of this times, unfortunately. Now, what is hopeful is when we come to looking at the 11th houses for both of these charts. Iran's 11, they both got the same planets there, and they each have a lot of fortune there, but it's a little bit more positive for Iran, just by a smidge. Because we got the lot of fortune conjoined Venus for Iran, whereas it's just conjoined the moon for Israel. Now, the moon is exalted in Taurus, but Venus has rulership in Taurus. Venus is the stronger planet here. And so, I think Iran does have more allies to call to for help, to ask and to reach out to for support. I think Russia, Pakistan, China, North Korea have all already spoken of bringing aid to Iran, whereas Israel just has the US and the UK, basically.
Well, and the whole United Nations,
Well,
most of the Western world,
a lot, yes, yeah.
NATO.
All I could say is that I think that this looks more positive for Iran getting external support.
You would say that
Down the road.
even though the moon is also exalted? The moon
Venus
exalted?
is more essentially dignified than the moon.
Okay.
And the moon can have a destabilizing quality too, at times. So just because the Venus is in rulership, whereas the moon is just exalted, Venus is stronger. That's my suspicion, and it's not by much, but it's something. And so we'll see. I mean, for both of these charts, the ascendant ruler is in the 11th house. It's still the moon in the 11th. I would guess that they're all going to be reaching out for aid significantly. I think that they're all going to get it. I think that the talk of the U.S. disentangling themselves from Israel is not going to happen. I think that is not going to come about. As much as many people might want that, I don't think that that's going to be the case. And you just look at APAC donations, and that tells you everything that you need to know.
Yes, and so where would you, which house do you place the common person in for mundane astrology?
It's the fourth.
The fourth.
So in this case, it's that Venus in the 11th house, which is interesting. It bodes well in the long term. I know there's been lots of civilian deaths, especially with Iran, but that might...
And Gaza, the proxy war.
And of course, yeah. Now, if we compare the ruler of the fourth house in the previous chart, because remember, this chart that we're looking at now doesn't take hold just yet. It takes hold at the summer solstice. In these charts, the ruler of the people is Venus in Aries, combust the sun and retrograde, and out of sect. Her position could not be worse. It's horrible. And I think this also kind of, because the Palestinians they're not part of their own state. I mean, you could say that this kind of affects the Palestinians too. For in Israel's chart, it's terrible. This is not good. And for either one of them. Whereas in this chart, things start to improve, which makes me wonder if this conflict is going to be a little bit short-lived, just because this doesn't have horribly negative effects on the people who always suffer in war. But we'll see.
So that things will improve for the average person. Potentially things will improve for the average person, particularly for Iran.
Yeah.
Especially since it's rather closely conjoined,
The
the
lot
lot
of
of
fortune.
fortune.
Yeah, exactly.
And the people of Israel are also doing much better, but further from the lot of fortune.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. What I expect to happen is that there's going to be a major devastating blow attack on the leadership of Iran, which is going to cause the government to capitulate in favor of Israel. That's what I expect. And then things will quiet down for a time. What all of this is doing to public opinion about Israel and Iran and the long-term effects of that, we will have to see. But I don't think right off the top of my head that this is going to be a super long-term drawn-out thing. But I could be wrong. This
So
is just,
not World War III.
so now I'm not expecting World War III from this now. No. And as much as it might feel like that now, I'm not expecting World War III. I don't think that any nukes are going to get dropped. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's...
All right, so we wanted to talk. So that's our. Thank you so much, Matthew. That's our
Those
Merlin.
are the prophecies.
Those are our prophecies. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the medicine. So aside from keeping your Skullcap tincture close at hand, Skullcap tea for night, because she's an excellent nervine sedative and can help with sleeplessness and insomnia really beautifully during the day for anxiety and stress. Spasms, great for seizures, all kinds of nervous system complaints. Aside from that, we're going to talk a little bit about ways to de-militarize your own life, right? And helping yourself to stay centered and grounded and providing support for your family and your community during these times, because we all know that there is, in addition to the propaganda that we've always had, we have the media companies and the oligarchs are much better able to enact psychological warfare on the population. So Merlin was just telling me about, or did I forget which one of us told who about Jeff Bezos saying that
I told you about that. I'll claim that.
Yeah. So he told me he shares good stuff sometimes.
Sometimes.
That Jeff Bezos publicly said that he wants his workers to wake up terrified.
Yeah.
Because that makes them more productive. So you can see how social media and the media, the news has always been weaponized, right, to create fear, because scared people buy things. Scared people are consumers.
Scared people are easier to control.
Scared people are so much easier to control, right? Because it puts you into your only you're black and white, unable to see shades of gray, unable to think outside of the box, sympathetic nervous system, logical brain, not creative, and not willing to take risks, right? So it makes us much less effective at organizing and instituting systematic changes, not only in our own lives, but, societally, right? So, Matthew, you also just sent out an email. Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so in the email that I sent out to my list just yesterday, was talking about how just unplug from the media as much as possible. Yes, educate yourself. Yes, hop on and educate other people as needed to your capacity, but do not just go on and doom scroll and watch the talking heads talking about this, that, and the other thing, interspersed with advertisements about stuff. Don't get sucked in. And you'll frequently find yourself, we find it happening to ourselves too, just it's like nothing's going on, we're feeling a little concerned, we just reach for the phone, or we just reach for the news. Or we don't have cable, but I see people do this with watching TV. And it's a trap. And it has all been, billions of dollars have been spent setting all of these things up to make them as addictive as possible, to just make sure that you stay plugged in, tuned into them as often as possible, as much as they can get you. They want your energy. They want you to be afraid. They want you to be obsessed.
They want you to be angry.
It's not helping you to cultivate. It's not helping you with your spiritual practices. It is actively disempowering you.
Yeah, and so there's something to be said for healthy fear, right? Acknowledging that we are living through climate change, acknowledging that our tax dollars are funding a genocide, acknowledging that, if you're in the United States, you are complicit in the military, in the military actions that those who purport to represent you are planning, right? That is real. And you can't live in a fantasy world where that's not a reality. You do have to live your life if you're a morally responsible person, and especially if you're a person who, is spiritually aware and understands that you're here for the job of ensoulment, to be fully here, to be fully present, and that you're connected with everything that's happening in this world around you, right? Like, you have to know your place, but you can't let that place be determined by what you see on social media, right? It's like there are also other ways to get news, right? Like, I highly recommend, check out Al Jazeera every once in a while. That's one of the only, major news networks that isn't funded by US oligarchs. Yep. And they are pretty fair and biased.
Check out Fox.
Actually, it is interesting also to, kind of like break out, because, the algorithm is tailored, specifically to, your particular funnel and interest. So it actually is really interesting to go see what they're saying on Fox every once in a while, to go see what, the schlock that, the Atlantic and the New York Times are selling. good to stay informed. It's good to take action. It's good to protest. It's good to regularly call your senators. It's good to donate to, organizations like Amnesty International that's out there trying to make life more livable for, the average citizen of these countries whose resources we extract and, sell to the, 0.1% so regularly. But you also have a life to live, and you're going to be much more effective at creating change simply by doing a lot of what we've talked about before, which is, buying locally as much as you can, supporting the brick and mortar stores in your communities, supporting small businesses, growing as much of your own food as you can, getting out of, moving yourself out of the waste culture that we have. It's like, buy secondhand, wear clothes after they, start looking a little bit shabby, reuse things as much as you can. You don't, try to consume as little as you can while still making yourself, happy and comfortable, in these times enough to work. And, of course, experimenting with discomfort and getting out of your comfort zone is a great thing. Mm-hmm. But for the sake of your nervous system, you can't guilt yourself all the time, right? There's enough people out there trying to, guilt you in order to get you to act a certain way. You don't have to police your own habits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's you're not doing anybody any favors by just getting sucked into the media, into the narrative all the time. And it's not, what are they, like spiritual whitewashing, spiritual bypassing. That's like the hot cue thing that people say nowadays. Because you're not spiritually bypassing by doing that for your own cultivation.
Getting off social media?
Yeah, that's not spiritual bypassing. That's
hilarious if you see somebody saying that.
I saw somebody say that at one point. It's absurd. It's absurd. There was probably somebody from the CIA that just does it, I think, or Mossad or something. Right? You never know.
Not looking at images.
That's what I just look at something I disagree with. I just call it a psyop. That's my bypass. But it's not. You need to take care of yourself. And you're not actually creating any grounded change or improvement by getting sucked into the fear machine. It's not helping anybody. It's not helping you.
I want to say we both fall prey to it.
We do.
We both have to be, pretty diligent.
Vigilant.
Because every once in a while I find myself like, all right, I'm on Facebook again for some reason. I would much rather be doing something else with these precious life units I've been given. Mm-hmm. Right. And so for me, just to like break things up, give something else to do with my hands. I just, recently started, picking up guitar again. Right. Just to, give myself that, other option of something else to, something more beautiful to do with my time. And I know that, if you're, a busy mother or a parent, I know, you might not have that luxury, but if there is something else you can do with your time, allow yourself to be bored, mm-hmm. right? Rather than looking at your phone. You don't need to take your phone to the bathroom with you, right? Like ask yourself every once in a while, like, do I need to have my phone right next to me? Like that, it might feel comforting now to have your phone right next to you, but ultimately your nervous system and your mental health is going to be much better if you give yourself chunks of the day that you don't have your phone with you. Like, and just notice how more space is created, especially, even just think, in terms of like the electromagnetic field, right? You literally will have more opportunities to be guided by your allies, be guided by your guides, to be guided by spirit if you don't constantly have that psychic interference going on. Mm-hmm. Right. I remember like back in the back in the hippie community in the day before everybody had a smartphone, and I was a really late smartphone holdout. I didn't have a smartphone until 2014. Used to talk about how TV was the mind killer. Right. And even just, the idea of watching, an hour or, an hour or more of TV a day, your yoga teachers, your spiritual teachers would tell you like, that's really interfering with what you can see in your third eye. you know, that's really interfering with the kind of messages that, you know, are going to come to you in your dreams and the way that your guides are going to speak to you, right? Like, and now we have this damn TV that we carry around with us and that we're constantly looking at. So it's like, imagine how much psychic interference we're getting from that. And, you know, as spiritual practitioners, as people who are interested in having the cleanest lines with communication from the other than human world as possible, we really need to look at ways that we can do things differently.
Yeah, well said. So let us know in the comments how you're doing with this, what pops up for you as you're watching this or listening to it. We always love to hear back from you. And yeah, take care of yourself, be careful. Don't feel bad for getting sucked into your phone, all that kind of thing. Remember, billions of dollars have gone into behavioral studies to make this stuff as addicting as possible.
We both have problems with it. I have more problems than you with it because I get sucked into fights with people on the internet.
Yeah.
Not good.
It's good. You've changed lots of minds. Like,
that's the thing. Like, I have figured out how to actually bring people to my side by offering up the right information.
Which most people can't do.
But and he'll be like, whose mind have you changed? I'll be like, look at this.
It's
like,
true. This happens.
All right.
Yeah.
You know,
like, all right.
Look at this win. But is it worth the
benefit
energy? Is it actually worth my life units?
That's my follow-up question.
Probably not.
That's the thing. You know? And there's lots of people doing good work with this for their full-time job. So you could make it your full-time job too if you want. Don't recommend it. But yeah, if you're not going to do that thing full-time, then let go. Just a little bit every day. Just distance yourself from it and see it as an act of rebellion against man.
Yeah, from your phone in general.
Yeah.
Like, we're thinking about getting like a lockbox and like only opens at certain hours.
Or getting the dumb phones.
Yeah, we're
dumb
touring
phones.
with getting off social media entirely.
Or have other people like do the practical stuff of the social media
when we hit the lotto.
Respond. Yeah, well,
Does anybody want to run our social media accounts for us?
Yeah.
Chime in. Tell us in the comments. We sure would appreciate it.
For sure. All right, everybody.
We can pay you in microdosing chocolates and good advice.
Yes, and money too. But all right. Okay, everybody. Take care. Be well.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.